Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Jeff, SimSamurai.net. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to a very historic occasion for both YouTube and SimTube. This is a full recreation of a realistic panel for a North American A-5 Vigilante. I found this photo off the NASA Dryden Test Research Laboratories and had never heard of this aircraft. Stumbled across it because a friend had mentioned it, seeing it on TV, and basically downloaded the freeware aircraft for FS9 from AlphaSim, and then proceeded to find it had no panel. And so I went out hunting for one and could find none, but what I did find is this amazingly real panel photo from 1963. As you can see, it's in very high detail, actually 3000 by 2000 bit color clarity from an old black and white photograph. And it's just a beautiful plane, and not many people know much about it. It was actually designed as a highly advanced naval carrier-based supersonic bomber designed for the Navy, and actually was intended to carry a nuclear weapon. But shortly thereafter got transferred in service to become a supersonic high-altitude reconnaissance aircraft, and served out its remaining 20 years in that role. So as far as I know, I haven't seen anybody really fly this ever on YouTube or SimTube, and I've definitely never seen any videos for anybody doing a carrier landing with it. It was also touted as being very difficult, if not the most difficult aircraft to land on a carrier, mainly because its high angle of attack and high approach speed. Again, this is a photoreal panel using the actual photograph from the real aircraft with gauges overlaid. That I built. It's available for free on my website, SimSamurai.net. Basically, this top button, as you see up here, is the star. This toggles between the IFR and the VFR cockpit. Here you can see the VFR cockpit, your main panel. This little icon right to the upper right toggles on your sidearm switch, which has the Marciano radar, lights, de-ice, pitot heat, stuff of that nature, your engines, startup and generator, and your fuel valve shutoffs, your throttle quadrant, etc. And that can be toggled off with this X, or again all the way on the far right via this icon. On the top right is the GPS 500 default GPS and an autopilot control with your autopilot readouts here and your autopilot hold switches here. Old school analog COM1 radio, a NAV1, NAV2, ADF, and then transponder, and then a DME NAV1, NAV2 gauge right here. So we'll shut that off, and as you can see, basically I'll turn that right back on. If you look up at the top right, you'll see I'm swinging into the ILS feather for this carrier. I already have the inbound heading, which is 069, and the course is 058 for the carrier. That's tuned in, properly tuned into NAV1, and as you can hear, I'm identing on NAV1. So as you can see, I'm starting to swing in. And usually I'll leave this up until I'm established on glide slope, and then I'll turn off the sidearms panel. As you can hear, I'm bringing the gear out and putting the flaps all the way down. And the last thing you got to remember to do is to lower your resting hook. And as you can see, I'm trying to get my glide slope needles lined up as well as the meatball gauge, which is this round circle. You can also see my glide slope gauge right here starting to come into play, and trying to get lined up for the glide slope. And so here we go. We're on the outer edge of the feather for the glide slope. I've got my glide slope needle centered here, and I'm just trying to catch up to the meatball. And so essentially for landing, again, I'll turn the sidearms panel all the way off. Right now I'm at flaps 30. In a second I'll put this all the way down for landing, and I'll put the tail hook down. There's the rest of the flaps, you can hear it. And there's the last notch of flaps. I also put a raised seat gauge right here on the dash, right underneath the IFR VFR panel toggle, and you can use that to raise or lower your seat view to help you get a better over the nose view for carrier landing. If I zoom in real quick, you can see the carrier there. I'll zoom back out. I usually fly at a 70.75 zoom. You can see the lights of the carrier right here at the top left of the dash. These two buttons right here will turn off or on the pitch ladder on the HUD, and then I can also turn the HUD off or make it dark. So I could just focus on the meatball gauge now. My airspeed is exactly 150 knots, and I do not have the speed brakes out. The speed brakes light is indicated right up here on the top left dash underneath the LABS. If that was on, that would be lit. And so speed brakes are not extended, and I'm holding 150 knots with full flaps. And again, confirm that the tail hook is down. So I have glide slope, but the meatball is down to the lower right. So I know that I need to fly down into the right just a little bit, as you can see I'm doing now. Overcorrected there a little bit, still trying to hook up the meatball. And here we go, quarter mile. And straighten her out, level it out, and there we go. And that is a trap, or an arresting, as they say. And so that's it. This is the A-5 Vigilante panel from simsamurai.net. Again, it's on my Hangar Talk page. You can download it from MediaFire via 7-zip file or WinZip. Feel free and enjoy. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any more questions, you can send me an email via my website. Again, this is Jeff, simsamurai.net. Thanks for flying.